Hello everyone, welcome to a new studio session. My name is Tim van Wert. Recently I released a new EP called Icarus on Protocol Recordings, and today we're going to talk about one of these songs. The song is called Come Back to Me, and we're going to dive into this project. So this is the radio version of Come Back to Me. You can hear that a top line is already playing. She is singing Come Back to Me, which is already the theme for the song. It already starts with percussion to give it the drive. The top line, the vocal is playing a loop, and it's going to do that for the whole song. This is the first build up, building to the first drop. It's really minimal, dark. And this first drop is all about tension and release. So there are no chords playing, it's just one simple note. After some bars, percussion is coming in. So over here, after some bars, the chords coming in. This gives a lot of relief. So the first drop is really minimal, dark, without any chord progression. And then when the chords come in, it feels like a relief. You can hear that there are more synths being added, like this synth hit over here. A choir is coming in. Some effects is here. You can hear that this ARP is coming in. It's been automated, like the volume, but also the filter is opening really soft. And when the filter is completely open, it introduces the breakdown. It's going back to basics, no chords. Some of these chords are coming in, but the bass line will remain the same. Now some effects is coming in. Also the filter of this ARP is opening to introduce the break, the second verse. The chords are playing, the bass is doing its thing. The top line is playing again. Now the kick comes in again to give the drive back. Now synths and effects are coming up. The bass is off now and is slowly rising again to introduce the second drop. Also the snare drum is coming in. And here we are on the second drop. You can hear that all the chords are coming back, all the percussion is playing. Actually every element of this song is playing right now. So that's basically the arrangement. It's really simple, a classic house dance arrangement. So we're going to start with the low ends. As you can see, there's a kick playing, a double kick, and a sub, and it sounds together like this. The sub comes from this Moog Sub 37, which is really nice. I'm using it on almost all of my songs, and it's just one mono synth, and you don't need that much processing on it. But we're going to start with the kick. You can see that I put it in a track stack, which makes it easier to process all my kicks in once. There's some EQ to make sure that the kick sounds nice in my mix with all the instruments together. And after some bars, I guess 8 bars here, there's a break kick, which I removed the lows of it. So if you have the kick playing for 8 bars, it might be interesting to remove the lows of it at some point to give it more tension and release and more dynamic to your song. Then there's a double kick playing. And it gives more like a really nice groove to it. It's the same processing as the main kick over here, but then with a little bit more EQing. So the top has been removed and the low. And here's the sub. It's this Moog, and you can see there's some automation going on, a high cut. So on the first drop, it's really minimal and closed. And then at some point, after some bars, you can see it's opening. There's some EQing going on. This transient decided to give it a little bit more punch. You can really hear what it's doing. And then to make sure that the volume of the bass on the overall track will sound the same, I've added this multiband compressor. Because at some point it's playing different notes, and some notes can sound a little bit louder or softer. And then it's really useful to use this one. You can see that some notes are louder, and then the multiband compressor is putting them a little bit down. To separate the kick from the bass, I've used this LFO tool over here. You can see that the start is being removed from this bass. And on the kick, you can see that it's playing where the bass is not there. Now we're going to the synthesizers and all the leads that are playing. This is actually the main synth. It's from Omnisphere. And here you can see that I've reversed it, which gives a really nice effect and more detail to your song. To this plug, I first added this Maserati, and this one gives a lot of punch to your plug. And to make it more organic, I've used this G37 from Waves. And this gives the sound a pitch envelope, which you can change with the depth over here. This is the more extreme way. But without this plugin, it will sound more, more computer-ish. And yeah, it sounds more organic if you're automating the pitch a little bit. And together with this Saturn over here, it gives a little bit of a raw edge to it. Just did it really subtle. And again, to give a little bit more punch, I've used this Oxford Transmod. But I guess later on the mix, I thought I needed a little bit more punch. So you can use this enveloper from Logic itself. You can literally drag the gain of the attack up and down, which will sound like this. But this one is really extreme. What really nice is of this plugin is that it also has a control button for the release. So if you think that the plug is too long, you can change it over here. They're really nice. Then I've run it through some buses. First bus 16 is overdrive. Some SSL compressors. an echo boy to give it the delay effect I want. And of course bus 1, which is a UAD lexicon hall. It's from this Apollo Twin X over here. Yeah, it has many great plugins, but this is the plugin I use the most. It's really nice reverb. Then over here are some higher synths. I've layered 2 of them. And these give just a really dreamy vibe to your song. They're not that loud in the mix, but if you don't play them, you're really missing them. You can really hear the difference. Then at some point, you can hear this hit over here. And it really gives that kind of 80s vibe to it. These are layered and all in the track stack. All of them are from Omnisphere. This one. So that's how I layered them. Then I put them all together in a track stack, which gives me the opportunity to process them all. So I started with this twin tube from Plugin Alliance. And what this does is you can add some harmonics, some extra frequencies to your sound. You can hear that the sound will sound so much fuller and richer. Then there's a step filter, multi-band compressor. And this way I'm controlling all the hits of it, the attack. Because some chords are a little bit louder than other chords. So yeah, it's way easier to mix if you compress these sounds together. And again, a compressor over here to compress the overall sound. Some EQing, removing the lows so it's not phasing with other sounds. So it's easier and better to remove them if you don't need these frequencies. And then of course some delay and some reverb over here. Then we go to the other synths. I stacked them all together here in this group. I've bounced this ARP over here just to save some CPU. And this gives a really nice surprise effect along your track. And it really introduces your, a different part of your song. So again, with a lot of reverb. And to give it more dreamy vibe to the song, you can hear some effect synths are playing, like this one. Also from Omnisphere. You can see that I've used almost the same processing as the other synths, but it really gives a nice detail to your song. Some more plugs over here, together with a bell. And here we're going to that moving ARP, which I automated. I guess this one is really extreme, the G37. You can really hear that it's moving up and down. So on this one, there's a lot of automation going on. I've created a filter, so first the highs are cut down, and then it's opening at some point. What else did we got? The LFO tool. So the first milliseconds of this one are muted, so the kick comes in easier in your mix. But then when the break comes in, I've turned it off. Also a tremolo effect going on, so the sound is panning from the left and the right. This is the extreme way, but I think 50% is good enough for this one. You can see that I started with this G37 and then later on some EQ, saturation. This one might be interesting to check. It's this little radiator from Sound Toys. Yeah, it's really aggressive. Yeah, these plugins from Sound Toys are really nice. Also this Mac from Plugin Alliance. It has a button with air over here, and what that does is it gives your sound or your voice a little bit more air, and sounds like this. Sounds actually really fresh. And over here are some horn effects playing. Kind of the signature sound of all of my songs. The higher synths are playing again, supported by this choir. I guess again it's from Omnisphere. Yes. Again, it's in a track stack. I did this for this one, so one is with an LFO2 for in the drops, so the kick comes in easier, and the other one is without for in the breaks. It's just way easier for me to do this as a workflow. This is how I process the choir. Because sometimes one person in this choir is singing louder than the others. So then it's easier to give this to use this multiband compressor to dip that part. Some saturation. To give that raw edge again. Clip distortion. Yeah, there's a lot of lows in these kind of synth in this choir, so I removed a lot of lows on this one. I thought that the mids around 1 and 2K were enough to present this choir. Then another compressor and this BX Digital to make it a little bit wider. And some reverb. Now we can go to the percussion. If we start from the first drop, you can see there's not that much percussion beside the kick. These loops are playing. It's this click loop, which is being panned from the left and the right to give it more detail. Then some heads are coming in together with these heads to give it more like a groove. On the processing, there's some distortion, an SSL channel, EQing, and this Denise noise, which is really nice to give a little bit more noise to your sounds, and on this head. This is also really nice if you want to create some effects with it. So it has a fall, which is the release. So that way you can make your heads longer. Again, the BX Digital to make it a little bit wider, and some compression. You can hear that there's a little bit more attack with this compression on it. I guess I've used the same processing on these heads over here. but also on the shakers and the tambourine over here. This shaker is playing later. A woodblock, a clap, layered with a snare, I guess. Yeah. And I guess this is also really interesting because here is a bigger clap and here are some smaller claps in the breaks. And this gives, again, some more detail to your song. And this syncope clap does it as well. You can see that this one is placed in a different reverb than the vocals and the synths. It's this one from Logic, the sampler. And it's really short, really nice for percussion. With the placement of my percussion, I always play the kick first, and then I'm gonna check where I want to place my instruments. So, for instance, this snare and this clap, they're not really on the grid. I place it a little bit earlier, some milliseconds, or a little bit later, because if you place it right on the grid, it won't sound that organic, because it's not really human to play right on the grid, and it's really, it doesn't sound that nice. So if you play it like this, it gives more like a snappy sound to it. Extreme way. Yeah, it sounds more like living and organic, more human, because if you do it like this, yeah, it's also a way, but it's not the sound that I wanted for this track. So again, an example how it can sound if you place your percussion earlier or later. You can hear it sounds different every single time. Then we can check some affixes. There's vinyl playing over here during the entire song. And this is nice to give your song a certain feeling or a vibe to it. For this one, I used this vinyl kind of record dust sound. But you can also use birds or a beach sound or water or whatever you want. It's just the feeling that you want to give to your song. So now we can check out the vocal, the top line. It's from Splice, a sample. And this is the original one.
Turn around, then come back to me. Turn around, then come right back to me.
And with the Logic stretch function, I try to make sure that everything is on the grid, that the tempo is the same, the pitching, and then it sounds like this.
Turn around, come back to me. Turn around, then come back to me.
You can see that I've cut some words between, some spaces, also some air, some breathing that she does. And that way, if you cut these things out, then it will sound a lot cleaner in your mix. For the processing, I did some EQing, removed the lows. I used this Waves plugin, the preamp Sheps, which sounds really nice. You can also see this metering going on over here, so you're sure that you're not going into red or clipping. Then some compressing, a de-esser. You can hear a lot of S's and T's in her voice, and it's reducing here a lot. So I've added another one here, another compressor, another one, and this little micro shift from Soundtoys. What it does is it has some little bit of delay effects around it, some chorus, and it just sounds really nice.
Then come back. to me. Turn around,
Extreme way.
then come back to me. Turn around, then come back to me.
And then to make sure that the top line is not clipping, I added this this limiter, but also to make it a little bit louder with -3 dB on this threshold. And then I've repeated this hook again and again on the overall song. And then I've tried to create some unique effects with this vocal. Over here we've got this sound. So this is actually the top line with a lot of reverb. Then I've bounced it and reversed it, and then you create your own kind of synthy vocal sound. There's a lot of extreme EQing going on because yeah, with the reverb on it, it will give a lot of extra harmonics that I didn't want on this particular sound. So I've removed them, so now it sounds better in the mix. Then this Penman from Sound Toys, which lets the sounds play from the left to the right. Also an LFO tool. So the first milliseconds are muted, so the kick comes in easier. Then it keeps this sidechain effect, but just really subtle. A lot of reverb again and delay to glue it all together. So yeah, this gives a really unique sound to your song. So now I can show you a little bit of my mixing and mastering. I do all my mixes and masters myself because there's also a sound in mixing and mastering. It took me some years to master it, but now I found my own kind of sound, and yeah, that's the reason why I'm mastering it myself. So I started with an EQ over here. It's just for automation, just right before the drop over here. You can hear that it removes some sub right before the drop, and it comes in when the drop kicks in. This just as an effect. The first thing I'm checking is this reference track. You pick a track that you really like, mixing wise. For this one, I used Runaway from Bam Bammer and Tin Liquor. And yeah, you're gonna play that song together with your song. And you can see that if I put my gains up, that I'm missing a lot of lows. The highs are okay, but I'm missing a lot of low ends in my song. So then we go to the C6. It's an EQ multiband compressor. This way I can change the bands of it. You can see I'm missing over 5 dB in the lows, so I'm adding them over here. And you can see that they're matching more this way. Maybe also a little bit in the low mids. And you can see that it's matching right now. So if I'm playing the other song, you can hear that they're matching together, which is really nice and really handy. Then again, some compressing over here, really soft. Then this Elysia, some more effects going on. This is a reverb, which opens right before the drop and closes when the drop comes in. Then this limiter from DMG Audio, which is really cool, especially with this built-in equalizer in it. So you can change these bands as well. And that's basically it. So this was my Logic session of Come Back to Me. Just let me know in the comments what you think of it and what you want to hear and see next time. The song Come Back to Me is out now on my new EP called Icarus on Protocol Recordings. You can check it in the link here down below. Ciao!